Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking on a really fascinating journey. We're looking at how history, geography, finance, they all map onto each other in Jamaica.
Right. Specifically how the really profound struggles of the past are still shaping things today, actually being sort of rebuilt through real estate.
Exactly. Our main source is this very powerful essay, Jamaica Rising, From Sugar Fields to Sunlit Homes. It's from the Jamaica Homes real estate platform, which is interesting in itself.
It is, and we're also looking at the tools they offer alongside it, calculators, guides, that sort of thing. Surprisingly practical stuff tied to this deep history.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Our mission here isn't just to look at property listings. We want to understand how Jamaica's incredibly complex, resilient history.
Everything from, the brutality of colonial exploitation right through to independence.
How all of that is fundamentally tied up with land ownership in today's real estate market. Structurally, emotionally, it's all connected.
Mm-hmm. It's suggesting that buying property isn't just a transaction.
Right, it's more like reclaiming a story, a narrative. It's both personal and national.
And what's really striking about the source is how it makes that connection so explicit. It links the big picture slavery, rebellion, the diaspora directly to the very personal act of building or buying a home today.
Yeah, it treats real estate almost as a declaration of identity, of permanence.
Which is pretty unusual for a commercial platform, wouldn't you say? To embed itself so deeply in national trauma and triumph. It implies every deal, every title deed carries this historical weight, centuries of it.
Absolutely. And there's this core quote they use that really frames our whole discussion today.
Ah, yes, the one about building a home.
Building a home is about more than walls. It's reclaiming a story that was never meant to be yours and making it your own.
That really sets the stage. It explains why we're diving into centuries of history just to talk about, property prices and mortgage calculators.
It's just ownership itself is a kind of restorative act. A radical one, even.
Ex-
So to really grasp why a modern Jamaican home carries so much meaning, you absolutely have to start at the beginning, the moment of dispossession.
Which the source places squarely in the mid-17th century, 1655.
Right. The British seized Jamaica from Spain, and that marks the start of sustained British colonial rule, a decisive moment.
And it's crucial to understand why they were there. The source is very clear on this.
Yeah, it wasn't about admiring the island's beauty or anything like that.
Not at all. It was singular, brutal even. Sugar, wealth, and maybe above all, control. Absolute control over the land, the resources,
Jamaica was basically re-engineered, wasn't it? It turned into this industrial engine for extraction.
driven by sugar monoculture, which demanded just relentless, backbreaking labor,
And that labor force, the engine for this whole enterprise.
was entirely built on forced labor. Hundreds of thousands of enslaved Africans brought over. The essay doesn't shy away from the horror of it.
No, it paints a really stark picture. The brutality, the conditions, testing even the strongest spirits, as it said.
A system designed fundamentally to strip away identity. Families deliberately torn apart. Lives reduced to, commodities. Inputs for the sugar machine.
Just chattel.
And we really need to pause on that suffering because the source argues this isn't just dusty history, it's a live trauma.
A historical residue.
Exactly. Something that still shapes communal spaces, how people relate to each other, local governance, and that really fierce pride Jamaicans have, it informs everything, the relationship with the land itself.
But what's incredible, almost immediately, is the defiance. Resilience wasn't something that developed later.
No, it was immediate, visceral, baked in from the start. The source shows resistance finding ways instantly.
Communities forming, even under the eyes of overseers, keeping cultural rhythms alive, language, spiritual practices.
Which became acts of rebellion in themselves, didn't they? Against that pressure to erase their culture.
And then you have the really dramatic examples, the most sustained resistance.
The Maroons, absolutely. Up
Yeah.
in the hills, the interior of the island.
These communities weren't just surviving. They were descendants of escaped Africans who actually thrived.
Right. They preserved African traditions, military, political, and they actively fought back, outwitting British troops in that really difficult, hilly terrain.
They'd turned the geography against the colonizer.
That's a great way to put it. The cockpit country, those mountains, the source calls them fortresses of freedom. And that's not an exaggeration.
These weren't just rebels hiding out. They were organized societies.
With incredible leaders, we have to mention them. Nanny of the Maroons, a spiritual and military genius. Her guerrilla tactics held off the British for decades.
A national hero today.
And Cudjoe, who managed to broker treaties with the British Crown. Think about that, forcing the empire to negotiate.
They turned those mountains, those valleys, into impenetrable defenses. It set this powerful precedent early on. This land couldn't be completely dominated.
And the essay connects this so well to the present, it says you can still feel that spirit.
Yeah, walking through Spanish Town, the old capital, or up in the hills of St. Elizabeth, that sense of resilience, of ownership meaning everything.
It's woven into the fabric of the place, physically, culturally, proving that, in spirit at least, the land was never fully conquered.
That deep connection, that fight, it all starts there.
Okay, moving into the 19th century, this is where, as you said earlier, it gets really complex.
Right, this tension emerges. You have this monumental victory, emancipation, but it's tangled up with this just bitter irony.
An irony that still shapes the struggle for land and economic inclusion today.
So, where do we start this chapter? The Baptist War.
Definitely. 1831, 1832. And it's crucial to understand this wasn't just a minor uprising. It was huge.
Led by Samuel Sharp, another national hero. It started as a strike, didn't it? Demanding dignity, fair wages.
Yes, but it escalated quickly into a full-blown rebellion, fueled by desperation, moral outrage. The source really emphasizes that.
The British reaction was swift and brutal. Sharp was executed, many others too.
Merciless. But paradoxically, that rebellion was a turning point. It showed the system was unsustainable. It cranked up the political pressure back in London.
Leading directly to the abolition of slavery across the empire. Emancipation in 1834. A massive victory, hard won.
Undeniably. Won through incredible sacrifice. But here's that cruel twist. The irony we talked about.
Okay, lay it out.
Emancipation comes, but the newly freed people, they have no land.
None at all.
No reparations were paid to them. The compensation went to the enslavers, unbelievably, and critically, there was no safety net. No capital, no support to start new lives.
So they were free in name, but
structurally still dependent, often on the very same plantations they had just fought to leave. The lack of land became a new form of subjugation, economic chains replacing physical ones.
which means the struggle just shifted, didn't it? It didn't end.
Exactly. The fight became about economic rights, political voice, and most importantly, secure access to land.
Which brings us to the Morant Bay Rebellion in 1865. Paul Bogle, another key figure here.
Right. This wasn't refighting slavery. This was protesting the ongoing injustices. Unfair courts, fraudulent land deals, being shut out of the political process. It showed the system was still fundamentally rigged.
The response this time.
Devastating again in the short term. Over 400 people killed in the suppression. And instead of reforms, London tightened its grip even more.
How so?
They dissolved the local Jamaican assembly and imposed direct rule from London. Crown colony rule, it was called.
So even less local control. A major setback.
A huge setback. It meant that Jamaica's future leaders, the ones fighting for self-determination, had generations of struggle ahead, negotiating, organizing, inspiring against this direct colonial control.
That long, hard fight for agency really shapes the national psyche, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it gives you the context for why owning even a small piece of land today feels so profound in Jamaica, why it's seen as this restorative act.
It connects directly back to that Dean Jones quote the source uses about laying bricks as defiance.
Exactly. Every brick you lay, every home you build carries a little defiance. It says, we belong here and we are claiming what was denied.
So a modern title deed isn't just a legal document.
No, it's an answer, a very direct, tangible answer to centuries of being denied that fundamental right to belong, to own, to build.
Okay, so let's shift gears now into the 20th century. The dynamic changes completely, right? Instead of people being brought to the island.
We see this massive outward movement, migration from the island, the diaspora, which becomes this absolutely central part of the modern Jamaican story.
And the defining moment, the symbol of this, has to be the Empire Windrush arriving in Britain in 1948.
Hundreds of Jamaicans on that ship heading to the mother country.
What was driving them? The source mentions hope, faith, courage.
Yeah, they were invited, remember, to help rebuild Britain after the war, seeking opportunities that were often, structurally limited back home due to that colonial legacy we just discussed.
But this voyage establishes that deep personal link between the Caribbean and the UK.
A link that defines so much of the narrative now. But the source is careful here. It reminds us this wasn't just about labor. It wasn't just a transaction.
Right. It was deeply personal.
People carried their whole lives with them. Their identities, family ties, faith, music, food, their capacity for connection. They were looking to build communities, often in places that were frankly, hostile and racist.
And romance flourished. Families were started. They weren't just building houses, they were building new cultural realities.
Absolutely. And in doing so, they started to change Britain itself. The source uses that great phrase, reshaping it from the inside out,
You see it in language, food, fashion.
and especially music. This cultural infusion showed that survival, that resilience wasn't just political. It was deeply rooted in community, family, and just asserting your identity, even when institutions pushed back.
And that cultural expression, it became more than just expression, didn't it? It became a force in itself.
A really powerful, unbreakable form of resistance, you could say, and highly exportable, a
Oh.
way to share their history, their perspective with the world.
You just have to look at the music. Reggae, dancehall, ska.
The source calls them histories set to rhythm, which is perfect. They carry the weight of everything we've discussed. Nanny's defiance, Sharp's struggle for dignity, the Windrush hope.
You can hear it in Marley's lyrics, can't you? It's not just music. It's like a direct inheritance of that historical fight.
Absolutely. And this resilience, this determination to endure, it even shows up in, well, architecture and planning, back in Jamaica too.
How so?
Just in the way communities were built, spaces reclaimed. There's a pragmatism there, building things to last. Against history, yes, but also against, the climate, hurricanes, the tropical environment. Things have to be tough.
Which leads to that witty line the source includes.
Ah, the one about the roof. It's great.
A Jamaican roof may sag under the weight of history, but it still keeps the heart dry.
That just captures it perfectly, doesn't it? The physical structure might show the strain, the nation carries its burdens, but the core, the spirit, the identity, it stays protected. It endures. Strong enough.
And all this struggle, this resilience, this cultural power, it culminates in that landmark moment, August 6, 1962.
Independence. Jamaica becomes a sovereign nation. The black, green, and gold flag goes up. A new era begins.
But sovereignty brings its own massive challenges, right? It wasn't an easy transition.
Not at all. An enormous task. You had that first generation of leaders, Bustamante, Norman Manley, later Michael Manley, Siga. They inherited this incredibly complex legacy.
Slavery, crown colony rule, economic dependency.
Deeply entrenched issue. So they had this immense challenge. How do you forge a new nation out of all that?
It sounds like a balancing act.
A very delicate one. On one hand, the urgent need for social justice, land reform, addressing centuries of inequality. On the other, the pragmatic need for economic growth, stability, attracting investment.
And balancing national pride with, well, the practical realities of the global economy.
Exactly. The source sums it up well. The best foundations were those that managed to honor the past while building for the future. That tension, again, between memory and modernity.
And that tension feeds directly into what the essay calls the returnee phenomenon.
Right. This significant trend in recent decades. Descendants of the Windrush generation, or Jamaicans who've lived abroad for years, choosing to come back.
To reconnect, maybe retire, invest.
And this movement is having a huge impact on the property market, a dramatic one.
This is where real estate really shifts, isn't it? From just being about investment
to becoming this profound statement of identity. The source describes buying land or building a house for these returnees as an explicit declaration.
proof of success, maybe, but also proof of reclaiming that narrative we talked about.
Absolutely. Tangible ownership. Bricks and mortar on the very land their ancestors might have been denied. It's incredibly powerful symbolism.
But let's pause here. The source itself raises some complexities, some tensions around this. It's not all straightforward.
No, it's definitely not simple. The influx of capital from the diaspora, the demand, it's undeniably pushed up property prices.
Leading to these high-end developments, gated communities in Kingston, villas in Mobay.
Right, which raises questions about affordability for locals. Is this creating new inequalities, echoing the past where the average person struggles to get a piece of their own ancestral land?
That's a critical point. If the historical fight was for access for everyone, how does luxury development fit with the legacy of, say, Paul Bogle fighting for poor farmers?
It's the core tension. The source acknowledges this friction, but it also argues that the returnees are vital.
How so?
They bring back capital, yes, but also skills, expertise, new energy. They help blend tradition with modernity, inject vitality into communities, support the economy. It's a complex dynamic.
Part of that ongoing nation-building process, maybe. Balancing investment with social justice.
I think that's how the source frames it. And it brings us back to that Dean Jones quote again, doesn't it?
The one about building a story, not just a house.
Exactly. You can't just build a house. You have to build a story, a legacy that your children will inherit with pride. Regardless of the house's size or price tag, it needs to embody that connection, that inherited history and future promise.
So after that journey through centuries, we land back in the present. What does this all mean? What's the takeaway for someone looking at Jamaica today, maybe thinking of returning, investing, or just understanding the dynamics?
Well, the main theme is crystal clear, isn't it? That shadow of the colonial past, it definitely lingers. You see it in economic challenges, sometimes in issues with land titles.
But alongside that shadow,
Is this incredible, consistent ability Jamaica has shown to turn hardship into opportunity, to build something new from difficult history.
the essay concludes on that note, right?
Yeah.
Saying the Caribbean's beauty is matched by its history. Painful, complex, yes, but also deeply inspiring.
And real estate becomes the embodiment of that whole journey, the place where memory literally meets ambition, where the dream of owning a home is built right on top of that long, hard struggle for the right to own land at all.
Okay, so this historical understanding isn't just like background color.
Yeah.
The source, the Jamaica Homes platform, actually connects it directly to their practical mission.
Absolutely. They seem to get that their users, especially diaspora members trying to navigate things from overseas, need more than just listings. They need tools. Reliable, detailed tools to handle the complexities of claiming that legacy today.
Because buying property, especially from abroad, with maybe complicated family land history, it's not simple.
Far from it. So this platform is quite unique in linking that deep historical narrative, the fight for secure land ownership, directly to the practical needs of buyers. They offer this whole suite of tools.
Designed to empower people,
Hmm.
right? To move from understanding the history to actually planning the finances, the logistics of ownership.
Precisely. It's about demystifying and de-risking the process.
Let's drill into those tools a bit, because this is where the source offers real, tangible value. It's not just talk.
Okay, so obviously there's a mortgage calculator,
Yeah.
standard stuff, but they also have a specific construction calculator.
Which is huge in Jamaica because building from scratch is so common.
Exactly, and a home equity calculator. Then you get into planning. An affordability calculator, rent versus buy, down payment calculator.
Why are these particularly crucial in the Jamaican context, especially for returnees?
Well, take affordability. If you're earning in, say, US dollars or pounds, figuring out your buying power in Jamaican dollars, managing exchange rates, understanding local lending practices, it needs careful calculation.
And the construction calculator.
Vital. Because you might buy a plot of land, but getting utilities connected, sourcing materials, finding reliable labor, managing the build-a-barn, those costs are highly variable and need specific projecting. It's often not like buying a turnkey home overseas.
Makes sense. What about the legal side? That seems like a potential minefield given the history.
It can be. That history of informal land tenure, family land passed down without clear titles, it means securing a clean registered title today can sometimes be complex. You need good advice.
So the platform needs to help navigate that too.
Things like understanding land transfer taxes, ensuring proper land surveys are done to modern standards, knowing the difference between various types of land tenure. These are real hurdles the tools and guides aim to help with.
Which explains why they organize their resources into those specific categories.
Right, sections dedicated to the returning resident, think duty exemptions, shipping cars, that kind of practical stuff. But also investment strategies, insights into local architecture, and importantly, heritage connecting people back to communities and history.
It shows they understand the user isn't just making a financial move.
No, it's often a life decision, rooted in identity, legacy, reconnection. They're facilitating financial planning, sure, but also, in a way, historical validation.
So it brings the learner full circle, from understanding that centuries-long struggle for land.
To figuring out the down payment and closing costs on their own piece of it, their own reclaimed story. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow. So our deep dive today has really covered some ground, from 1655, the British arrival, through Maroon resistance, the defiance of Sharp and Bogle.
Right up to independence in '62, and this modern wave of the diaspora returning. It's quite a sweep of history.
And that thread running through it all, just incredible resilience, and this powerful act of reclamation, taking back the narrative, taking back the land.
And the source material really drives home that idea. In every home we build, there is a conversation with history, which, if you accept that premise,
That your home, your physical space, talks to the past.
it poses a really interesting question for you, the listener. As you think about legacy, about maybe building or buying, what specific part of Jamaica's incredible, tough history do you want your walls to talk about?
Is it the Maroons' fierce self-determination? Sharp's demand for dignity? The wind rushed generations' hope and sacrifice.
What conversation do you want your home to have with history? It's a powerful thought.
It really is, connecting that grand historical sweep right down to the personal ambition of having a place to call home. Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration of legacy land and the practicalities of making history your own. We hope you'll continue to explore these ideas.
Definitely worth thinking about.
We'll leave you with that final, memorable quote from the source. It sums up the spirit perfectly. In every home we build, there is a conversation with history. If walls could talk, they'd tell you about resilience, hope, and a little mischief.